I ran some research on various aspects of email marketing. It's the email addiction report. It's freely available from the Zetasphere website. And one of the questions we looked at was, this is research with consumers, a consumer survey, was, what would you exchange your email address for, with a reputable brand? And it's, people wanted instant benefits. People want instant gratification. So needless to say, the things on the left are, free shipping, $5 gift card, 10% off your next order, brand loyalty points, upgrade of a purchase, and so on. So it is very much, that previous pop-up I showed didn't have an explicit incentive on it. And certainly adding some sort of immediate measurable incentive, whether that's money or a download, will help the conversion rate of those conversion options.
Makes all the sense. Yep.
One of the revelations is the prize draw or sweepstake, which is down right on the right hand side at 31%, as a reason to give an email address. Actually, it's less attractive than receive future promotions. So just stressing that people are opting in to get good deals and get your best offers and new product information, so that actually could work better than trying to offer people the chance to enter some sort of sweepstake competition, which I find quite amusing, since competitions are so used in marketing, and the number of tests I've done around competitions and using competitions to try and get engagement, you just find, sure, there's people who like competitions, but actually most people are so turned off by them. Most people are long in the tooth, like, another competition,
Yeah.
Another one I'm not going to win. Why am I bothering?
Well, yeah, I think that's the deal. Most people just assume they won't win, so why bother?
Yeah, absolutely.
But free shipping, they win right then and there. So it makes total sense.
And if you do want to run a competition, you go, look at all the data we're getting, potentially, because it's gone, if you use an incentive like a $50 Amazon voucher or $500 Amazon voucher or something, it goes into the professional comping forums and groups, and you drive all of this traffic into your sign-up funnel of people who are never going to interact with your brand. They're not your target market, because you've used a generic prize for the competition. So, never do that. Make sure, if you do feel you want to use a competition, target the offer around people that will, identify they want your brand and not just some generic thing. Competitions drive really bad data if you're not careful.
Makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So add an incentive for instant gratification. It's a great way to improve the conversion rate. So let's move on to. There we go. That's the slide. So the another pop-up here. This is one I sort of want to talk about as an example of how to do things and how not to do things. The headline. This is a pop-up, which great, love pop-ups. This one's got a headline of "We would love you to join our mailing list," which is all about the brand. It's all about what the brand wants, and that's really a big no-no. People don't care about you. Sorry, it's true. They care about themselves. So you make sure your headline's all about the benefit that people are going to get, because nobody wants to join a mailing list. They want the benefits of being on a mailing list. They really just don't want to be a number on a list. But if I'm going to get those great offers, if I'm going to get timely new products, if I'm going to get exclusive benefits, tell me about that, because that's what's going to get me on there.
That makes total sense. So that headline, instead of "We would love you to join our mailing list," could just be get 10% off your next order, or some kind of benefit to the consumer, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly that.
And those are those little things that, when you're writing this, when you're putting this together, you don't always think about, right? And it's really important to keep the consumer in focus when you're putting together pop-ups, for sure.
Yeah, pop-ups and just actually all email marketing is, don't write about yourself, write about the consumer. write about what their needs, wants, desires, and fears and and things are. Don't write about what you want, because they really don't care about you.
You've said that a few times. Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I can confirm that.
Yeah. And there's some kind of another interesting thing going on in this pop-up. There's a little bit of disjunct between the sequencing of thought as well. So we love you to join our mailing list. That should be a nice benefit. Then we've got, please enter your email address. And then below that, we've got some text which is, be the first to know about it. So that almost the last thing we've got is to start to talk about the benefit.
Right.
So we're kind of asking for the email address before the benefit.
Oh, it should just be flipped up there.
Yeah. So the order of thought process here doesn't match the order of thought process that the consumer's going to have. They're going to be thinking about, what is it? What am I going to get? Why should I do it? How do I do it? And therefore the flow of the pop-up and the opt-in should be matching the consumer thought process.
Right.
And the call to action here, sign up. It's not a bad sign up call to action. People understand it. Its purpose and intent is fairly clear. Perhaps a little bit kind of stuffy, formal. You've got less formal options, things like I'm in, or let me join. I've seen that on a brand where they use let me join for sign up, which is interesting because it kind of positions it as more of a privilege.
Right.
When you say let me join, it's like, not anybody's going to be allowed to join, but if you're lucky, you're going to be able to join.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it.
Yeah.
So this one's makes a little bit of fun. This is from Neil Patel, well known obviously to most people, digital marketers. He's got a spin to win kind of opt-in process. So this is obviously a little bit of a competition or a bit of gamification. It adds that bit of engagement, kind of, I wonder what I'm going to get. Let me just spin the wheel. But rather than being a, sweepstake, which is fill in the form and wait for the end of the month, this is an instant gratification mechanism. So, that's quite a big difference with this is I'm playing to win, spin to win now. I'm going to have a little bit of fun. I'm, like a scratch card for Lotto or something.
Yeah.
It's the instant gratification, not wait to the end of the month. I'm going to find out.
Yeah.
I did say be careful about data when you use this type of incentive. He's using an incentive which does match his audience, his target audience. The other very interesting thing is, I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen too well, but there's two checkboxes on this. The first one is I agree to receive an email to claim my prize and emails to teach me about getting more traffic. And the second one is a sort of the T's and C's one. But it's you sort of wonder, why is that first one needed? And that really is kind of a data quality thing at this point. Is he's deciding, well, I don't want just people entering without understanding exactly what they're giving permission for, and we're going to make them positively do it. So a little bit in reaction to the issue of gamifying and offering competition incentives. He's added an extra tick box there, which is quite interesting to sort of balance quality and quantity for email capture.
Yeah, I love this example. Yeah.
Have you tried this one then, Jack? Have you tried spinning? Did you win?
I have not. I'm afraid I'm going to call from his SEO with the team, from the team with regard to SEO, and then I'd feel bad. But I just like the concept. I think this concept can be used across numerous types of products and services.
Sure. All right. Okay. I just wanted to show this. I mean, this is so typical. Bottom left there is it's the footer of the website we're looking at. Bottom left, there's a sign up form. It's actually got enter email address and confirm enter email address. So they're using email address twice to get verification. Jack's definitely going to tell us how we can do that better a little bit later on in this webinar. Giving people a chance of putting their email address in twice. There's smarter ways of doing some of this stuff. But what I did want to say really on this is, by all means, go and put a sign up form in the footer of your email, of your website rather. Put it run of site, whatever. I have never ever seen a lot of data collected by these things. It's just so far out of the way. You know,
Right.
there aren't many people going, I'll just scroll down to the bottom and see if I can sign up.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, by all means, don't feel you can't do it, but just don't make this your only way of collecting opt-in data. You will not get much.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because this particular brand could even use that last wheel, right? It's like spin to win some, something that they want to potentially give away, a product, or maybe an incentive towards buying another portion of their product, because they market that way a lot. This particular brand is very
Right.
much like the marketing up at the top with free item with $10 purchase. That's kind of their process, which is very effective. Yet they're not incorporating that in their sign up.
Right.
Give us
Yeah.
your email thing.
And it's kind of, you know, it's sort of lost backwater at the bottom. And you know, the thing I'd really say is you probably would never know if you've put in, you know, several sign up forms around your website and you've got some on social media and you do it
Yeah,
through, you know, offline and so on. Unless you track your sign up sources, you just don't know what's working, what's not. So, you know, the lesson here is track your email sign up source. When you've got several sign up forms, several different ways people are coming into the database, make sure you're tracking where people are coming from. Otherwise, you'll never know where to spend your time optimizing, improving, and
right,
doing more of.
right.
And it's
By the
only
way,
because,
my family loves this brand. I think
okay.
we keep them in business.
All right, I never knew. I didn't know that.
It's all good.
There you go. All right, let's push on. Okay. So this is the on here, the Daily Worth website. They've got a really big bold banner bar. So this is the exact opposite of the previous slide. You know, where we've got plenty of space being dedicated to getting an email address. We've got a big bold headline: "Get a fresh perspective on your money," which is pretty appealing. Most people want to want to do something better with their money.
Right.
Is there anybody who doesn't want a fresh perspective on their money? It certainly sounds like it could be useful. So this is great in terms of you're not going to miss this option of signing up. If I was going to pick holes on this one, the call to action button, the go is kind of the contrast on that is quite low. So it sort of fades away, and also the white copy, certainly white copy on that salmon background is quite hard to read when it gets to the inspiring ideas, practical tips, and so on. So a little
Mhm.
bit more contrast in this would certainly have set that one off.
Do you see, so for instance, this is a static banner on the website, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you see where you can use the static banner, but also the pop-up in order to, if in the event the person doesn't sign up there, do you see that combination working?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, some people are going to dismiss the pop-up because they're not ready for it,
Right.
which is why you might reshow a pop-up, you know, if people stick around on the website or redisplay it once or twice.
Mhm.
So having or introducing a sign-up banner somewhere else, you know, as I said at the outset, keep asking. Don't be shy to ask more than once. Just because they didn't take you up on the offer first time doesn't mean to say they won't.
Right.
Um,
No, that's
you
great.
know, ask at the point when they're going to be engaged. But yeah, you know, the
Yeah.
worst thing to do is to think because you've asked once and they said no, don't ask again. Uh, you know, if you've got children, you know how often they ask for something when they want it.
Right.
A nice little way of getting, you know, high conversion as well. Often used, quite a few websites will use this of social proof. Join 650,685 other humans. So this one is, rather than stressing the benefit of what you're going to get, it's just stressing the social proof to
Yeah.
say, look, you know, if you've got this many other people subscribed, you really should be too. So if you've got a big list, it's a good method. And on the Social Media Examiner, you know, another pop-up, and this one, interesting pop-up here. They are offering an incentive. They do have various different incentives. This one is a social media marketing guide or industry report. The pop-up got your free copy, 390,000 already using these insights, 60 charts. There's lots of stuff there to say why you're going to want this report. Yeah. The interesting thing is all it's got is one button, which is yes, I want my copy. So this is really trying to remove the friction around entering an email address, because as soon as you see an email address and a form, it can put people off. Oh, I don't want to fill it in. But when you click the yes, I want my copy button, then guess what comes next is the dialogue changes. That pop-up changes to, sure, if you want it, put your email address in here and your name in and send me my free copy. So why do that? Why bother having a sort of a two-step process? And the reason is the Cialdini. He if you know his works, wrote Yes, Persuasion, and a few other books around psychology. He identified one sixth trait of humans, which is we are consistent with previous choices. So once you've kind of said yes to something, it sort of propels you to keep saying yes. You don't sort of say yes to something and then suddenly change your mind. We are instinctively consistent. We don't do a U-turn. And so once we said, yes, I want my copy, we go, oh, I need an email address to do it. Sure. I'm going to put an email address in them because we've already made our mind up. We want a copy of this report.
You've already committed.
We've understood the friction.
Yeah. Makes complete sense.
Yeah. So they're using a two-step kind of process. Interesting, different method of trying to get the conversion on that one. All right. So checkouts, of course, are one of the best places to get email data in terms of, your best converting email data, of course, will be people who purchase from you, people who do a financial transaction of some sort. So, of course, everybody's going to be trying to get data during the checkout process. This would be typically, like the Jimmy Choo here, we've got, I would like to sign up to receive updates. So there's always a big debate around, should I pre-check my opt-in boxes or not pre-check my opt-in boxes on checkouts? This one isn't pre-checked. And if you work with people who are signing up within Europe, there's obviously some legal compliance challenges to using pre-checked boxes or not. And in fact, in Canada as well under CASL, you have some choices to make, and it makes a difference whether you get a checkbox signed or not. So, what can we do about checkboxes and trying to improve it? The actual best thing to do, rather than having a not checked box, if you like, rather than having a default of opted out and people have to take an action to opt in, if you're going to go that route, don't do that, but do this instead. Have a yes, no button. So you'll see this sort of yes, no here, which is not pre-checked, and make people explicitly decide yes or no. So this is kind of a subtle, rather than having them silently opted out, actually make it an active question they have to answer.
And I would think, for example, on that particular form where it says, yes, I'd like to occasionally receive exciting contests, that's another opportunity. I mean, they're clearly kind of making it about the benefit of doing this, right? But that to me is like a really great opportunity to drive home the benefit of providing and giving consent to use your email address.
Yeah, absolutely. Let people know what the benefit is there.
Yeah.
It's not, yes, no, please let me join the list. It's look, here's a really good reason why you should join the list. Now, would you like that or would you not like that?
Right.
And in tests, again, using a positively driven choice where people have to make a decision of yes or no actually will work incredibly well. It works, as well as having a pre-ticked box. So, if you decide you're not going to use pre-ticked for compliance reasons or quality reasons, a yes, no is going to do it. And again, one of Cialdini's principles is around, from psychology of persuasion, is around commitment. And, you know, if you've asked people to make a positive choice about yes or no, and they've said yes, that actually has made them more engaged. You know, when they do start to get the emails that come, at that point, it's not like, oh, whoa, did I select that? You know,
Right.
oh, I really did ask for that. This is great.
Right.
This is what I really did want. So it creates a much more positive experience.
Oh yeah. No, that's great.
Oh, so I've just skipped a slide. Let me just go back.
No problem.
Uh, and this one from Woman Within Woman. You know, they've taken a slightly different approach to the challenge of non-pre-checked boxes, which is if you go for register now, you see they got a little graphic there.
Yep. It's almost like a little mini pop-up.
Yeah, yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like, you know, you hit the register and it goes, whoa, are you sure about that? You didn't check.
Do you like that, or is that a from your perspective a kind of a cool way of doing it? I guess it's all about messaging so much, you know, more so than like the technology layout of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, do I like it? In what sense of do I like it? Do you mean?
Well, just in terms of sign up for emails, and then how it's got the you're going to miss out on great deals. It's sort of, you know, it's sort of just encouraging you clearly to check that box, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, in terms of, you know, it's all down to the results of does it work? If it works, I love it.
Right.
But as you say, the kind of the missing out again is sort of, you know, Charles Easing's principles of people fear of missing out, or FMO, people call it. You know, this is, you know, giving a positive, and then suddenly giving a negative of hang on, you don't want to miss out on this, and people certainly, you know, have a fear. We all know that, you know, if you find $1 on the street, you're pretty happy. If you lose $1 on the street, you're really unhappy, right?
Right.
You know, the dollar you lose is far more painful than the dollar you find, which is all that business of loss aversion, and people hate it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very good.
Okay. So this one's from a blog, James Altucher's thoughts, perspectives on life and experience. You know, I've got nothing special about this blog, but I did think the sign up was worth talking about.
Yeah.
You know, the copy here, it's really not great. It's, you know, it's missing benefit. Please complete this form and click the button to gain instant access. You know, we're missing the opportunity for some benefit there about, you know, get a new perspective on success. The subscribe, you know, isn't much better. And then, you know, with the button, we've got submit, which for historical reasons, you see so many forms with submit because that's what some techie thought would be a good name for a button when they created HTML. And therefore, marketers have ever since been using submit as the name of a button. But for me, that's kind of like asking customers to surrender. It's like, you know, pointing a weapon at them and saying, submit to me now, give me your email address.
Totally. No. And again, that kind of gets into that folklore of email, right? It's like somebody somewhere said use it, and people just continue to use it when in fact there's probably a better way to ask for it.
Yeah, so I mean, use a call to action, which, you know, emphasizing what people are going to get, the benefit, you know, the join me. And this was some interesting data from
this is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, this is some interesting data.
There you go. That's why you don't use it right there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, looking at submit button with forms with and without submit button, and guess what? Forms with a submit button don't get converted anywhere as well as without a submit button. And that could be partly because you know, the forms with a submit button are also generally not very well designed forms. If people have fallen into the trap of a bad submit button, they've probably fallen into a few other traps as well.
Yeah. You typically don't see the beautiful form with the submit button, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so talking of which, then really, you know, another mistake or another thing to be wary of here is just asking for too much data. You know, this form, in order to get a $50 off, incentive and or next purchase and sign up. We have to give email address and zip code and birthday, and we've got a submit button as well. So be really careful about asking for a lot of data on sign-up forms. It's always tempting to ask for a lot, but the minimum is an email address plus name. Okay, fair enough. You don't need more than that.
Right.
Don't ask for it. Particularly be careful of sensitive data, which is things like phone numbers, addresses,
Definitely,
date
yeah.
of birth. And if you do want to, ask for date of birth, or because you want to send a, birthday email, which are obviously very popular emails to send. If you want to send a birthday email, then they did do something intelligent here, which was they only asked for month and day and not year, which is month and day is enough for you to know when to send the email.
Right.
But it's obviously not quite as sensitive as asking for people's year of birth.
It seems to me that you could gather some of the information in this form in other parts of the customer journey, right? In other words, once you get their email address and you start communicating and providing relevant information to that consumer, there's probably places in that journey where you can then ask for a birth date because you want to, do something special on their birthday, where the person now is part of your brand and they're interacting with you, they're probably more likely to not be turned off by something like that. Is that a legitimate thought, or does the data suggest otherwise?
Yeah, yes and no. If there is a kind of legitimate and logical place where you can ask for the data, then doing it later is fine. There's a lot talked about progressive profiling.
Right.
It's particularly used in the B2B world, progressive profiling of, ask someone a little bit but you have, in order to get it, each part of the progressive profile, you tend to have to give another incentive and another incentive and another reason. Getting people to fill in extra data after they first signed up is actually incredibly hard.
Okay.
I've worked with brands where they've gone, let's clean up our database and let's get some extra data for profiling, and they've worked so hard to try and go back to their database and get extra data points, and people they're just not interested in doing it without a damn good reason. So it's sort of if it's natural as part of some other aspect of the interaction, great. Behavioral data is really the best way of doing future profiling, because then you're collecting by observation rather than by explicit requirement.
Sounds to me like we should have another webinar specifically around that.
Yeah, sure. Be
That's
happy
a cool
to.
topic. No, very good.
But the other thing to do, if you are going to ask for some data, like the date of birth here, they've asked for the month and day of birth. They haven't given any reason as to why. They probably, they knew they wanted it for, birthday email, a birthday gift. If I was signing up, I have no idea. That's why it's like, why do you want my birthday?
Yeah.
So if you are going to ask for some data, then let people know why you want it. And if it's a damn good reason that's a benefit to them, they're going to be more inclined to go, sure, I get it. I don't mind giving you that. Is that, there's a reason why I should do it.
Very good.
All right. So other places sort of about, asking for as many places as possible, checkouts, pop-ups, websites, social, offline, these are all good places. If you have an online account where people are logging back in, and you don't have subscribe permission, then you've probably got some sort of notification mechanism in the online account. Use an alert there to ask for an email address. Offline, if you are meeting customers and prospects anywhere offline, this has worked very well for many brands, which is sort of like a scratch and win. People go into a store, they buy something, they give a scratch card, they scratch it. It tells them, you've won something. there. You now need to go to a website, fill in this code, and you can, claim your prize. So ultimately, it's an email address capture, but by making it again gamification to get that engagement, and people, love it, and they go and sign up.
I love that.
It's a pretty cool way of doing things.
Very cool.
But telesales, if you do have any kind of telesales, another great place to look for getting email address capture, does need to be done with a great deal of care. You do want to consider things like double opt-in, because maybe the permission hasn't been clearly explained if it's over a telesales. Most telesales agents only do stuff if they're incentivized. Therefore, you may need to use an incentive for the sales agent, in which case you really do need to use double opt-in, because now they've got an incentive to try and game the system.
Yeah.
So I've worked with brands who use telesales very successfully, but there's things to do. Look at incentives, look at double opt-in for permission. Certainly use list verification. Tools, Clickbox. Make sure you track the bounces that are coming back from these, so that you can quality control the activity in the telesales center.
Yeah. Very, very true. I think that leads us into a little bit of verification, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there we go. Similarly, goldfish bowls, again, a good way of collecting email addresses, but it does need a lot of kind of consideration for quality and double opt-in. And, don't forget, finally, for the people you've got on your list, maybe their best email address has changed when people come back and log back into their account somewhere. Ask them to verify their email address is still the right one, the best one to contact them through. So it's not just about opting in, but also maintaining list hygiene. Which
I love that. I love that practice. That's a really important piece.
Yeah. Which list hygiene is, well, I guess, Jack, this is your area.
It is. So I'm going to take some control back from you, sir. And let me just go back for a moment. Well, it doesn't necessarily matter. What's really important from our perspective, when you're building all of these forms and you're working to capture an email address, it's important to remember it's a very simple thing, but the only useful email address is a valid one. And so there's lots of ways people attempt to validate an email address. Double opt-in is one. But oftentimes the form is just wide open, and you can get fat fingering and things of that nature. And what's interesting, Tim, before I get into this, is with regard to telesales, we have, what I'll explain here is our API can be connected to any form, right? And it's super simple to use, and it's just a wonderful practice, because in milliseconds it helps you determine whether or not the email address that you're being given is deliverable. But we have companies that use our API with their CRM systems in store, for example. So like if you are at a store and you're checking out and the person asks, "Can I get your email address?" As the associate starts to type the email address, our API can verify within that environment. Our email can verify telesales when somebody's on the phone and they say, "Can I please get your email address?" That's notoriously where bad email is collected, because you can't necessarily always understand how someone might be pronouncing it. You may not fully understand how to spell it. And as you start to type that in, if you have email verification built in at that collection point, whether it's on a form or a CRM, it just makes your world so much easier, because it stops that bad data from getting in. But more importantly, as you use this, clearly by verifying at the point of capture, and I'm going to give you a demo here in a minute, it improves email data quality, pure and simple. If you've gone to this extent to drive a person to your website, and we all know that costs money, please give it a try to plug in some verification on that form to make sure that your data quality is accurate, that you've spent so much time and energy and money to collect. I
love the real-time aspect, Jack, because I see, on data collection forms, you see a bounce rate you know, 6%, maybe 10, even 12% bounce rate for email addresses on data capture forms. People really, you know, they mistype, they don't recheck their own work.
Sure.
And having the real-time verification is just going to drop that bounce rate, which is, you know, great for reputation. And also, if you've got that real-time verification, you're going to get more email addresses. You know, what's not to like?
Right. Yeah. So, you know, the basic idea is, you know, an accurate email address improves your data quality, improves your engagement. You know, email marketers are constantly watching metrics when they send out an email campaign. They want to see what the engagement is, the open rate, the click-through rate, all of those types of things. Well, if you're sending to an email address that was collected poorly in the beginning, all of those metrics that you're trying to measure are impacted. And they're impacted in a way that doesn't suggest your email campaign is poor. It just means that you're sending it to someone that, you know, just isn't going to ever engage because it's potentially undeliverable, right? So there's all kinds of really great, you know, reasons. It improves email deliverability. There's no doubt in my mind that if you have, you know, verification at the point of capture and you can verify that that email address is deliverable, email deliverability goes up, which is an important thing to be considerate of as an email marketer. Again, boost campaign performance, very much, you know, in line with improves engagement. Everything that you monitor, everything that you watch, everything that you attribute to a successful campaign that you either internally as a email marketing team watch, or perhaps it's information that you have to provide to you know, the C-level of an organization. All of those metrics improve when you just take a moment and ensure that that email address that you've captured is deliverable. And of course, all of that just leads to generally improved ROI. Simple math, if you collect 100 email addresses and 20 of those are undeliverable, but you're sending to them anyway, your ROI is impacted by that. If you eliminate those 20 and only send to the 80, your ROI will be measured much higher. And that's just a simple truth. And I think what most people don't realize is how basically simple it is to leverage an API on a form. And what I want to do is just give a quick demo here. So this is going to be a little weird because I'm going to share my screen and go to a place here where I can show you just basically a sample form. What we've done here is this is just a mock-up form. Keep in mind, if you use our API, for example, you control what the form looks like, how the form operates. You control all the experience that the consumer sees. All you're using our API to do is verify as they type in an email address, verify whether that's deliverable. And in this case, I'm just going to show you how when I type in an email address, we just put a little green checkbox. And that just means it's deliverable versus a red X that means it's not deliverable. So for example, on this form, if I just start typing in an email address, it will verify that email address and give me a green checkbox. It's literally that simple when you integrate an API at the point of capture. All this tells you is that that email address now is deliverable. So when it comes into your database, you're good to send. You don't have to worry about whether or not that's going to impact your ROI, your engagement, your deliverability. All of those things are taken care of. And it's just such a simple thing to use. I encourage you, if there's interest in this, simply navigate over to kickbox.com, go to our documents section. It's dropped down at the top of the screen. And you can learn about the API and how simple it is to use. If you want to talk to us about it, we're more than happy to engage with you. We're more than happy to provide you a bunch of free credits so you can test it out and see if it's right for you. But it truly is a way to just improve your data collection, especially when you've gone to such lengths to come up with great forms and encourage your customers and speak to them about providing you with an accurate email address.
Nice. And on that, you normally have the call to action button wouldn't be actionable until the email address is validated?
Say that again, Tim, I'm sorry?
So would you normally recommend that the call to action button is, like, you know, disabled until the email address is valid?
Well, yeah. There's a lot of ways that you can set it up. So, for instance, because our verification will verify whether it's deliverable, undeliverable. We have a risky notation, which means that generally it's deliverable, but it might be a role address, for example, right?
Sure.
And then, of course, we have undeliverable as well. But what we have is when people use the verification, they can set up how they want that verification to act. So for example, we do have customers that use our email verification and they accept everything. But when it comes into their database, it's marked as deliverable, undeliverable, et cetera. So then they can do the work on the back end to determine how they want to remove that email address, right?
Okay.
We have others that will absolutely ask you to clear it up because when you give an email address, it might be to, rent a car and you need to get that rental, agreement. Or it might be, sign up for our awards program. And so it's a little bit more important that they want to slow the person down and ask them to correct that email address at the point of capture. So all of that is completely dictated by the user of the API. We don't dictate any of that. We provide the tools and the calls so that you can really customize that form however you feel is best for your customer.